What's up, guys? This is the 10 principles of masculinity. Now, I'm not saying that you have to live up to these all the time, or I'm not saying that if you don't live up to these that you're not a real man. But let's get right into them. So the first one is the sovereignty principle. This is the notion that you are the highest authority in your life. You need to stop asking for permission. Stop walking on eggshells, worrying about what other people think about you, worrying about what society and the masses and insufferable leftists think about you. Quite honestly, they don't, right? Nobody, it's 2025. We're all super atomized. Nobody really cares about anybody else. The only reason that even leftists are like, ooh, he said a racist thing, is simply so they can pat themselves on the back, right? That's the only function that racists have in their worldview, is simply making dorks feel better about themselves because they have an opinion. So, you need to understand, you are the singular authority in your life. Perhaps God, right? If you're a religious person, okay, God, you have to be judged by them. Otherwise, you need to be worrying about not what your mom thinks about you, not what your dad thinks about you. You need to be worried about what you think of you. And the more that you hesitate, the more that you cower, the more that you do these sorts of things, you don't follow through on the promises that you make, you simply build a reputation with yourself as a little bitch. And the worst reputation you can have is the reputation with your own subconscious. So, stop outsourcing your sense of self-worth to what people on Reddit think, to what people on, who you don't even know and like, what they think. The people at the bar, like, really, don't go to bars anyways, but if you're at a bar, don't give a what the other people at the bar think, because quite honestly, they're not thinking. They're there to drink, they're there to have a good time. So yeah, don't wait for permission. Be the guy who jaywalks. Pretend like you're driving in Vietnam and you don't necessarily have to wait for the green light before you go. Just go. Just do it. Don't worry about the rules. We'll get to that in a second as well. Number 2 is the law of internal order, right? You need to understand that the external world, the world around you, will reflect within your internal mindset. There's no such thing as a person who lives in filth, lives in disarray, who has a calm mindset. So, you need to be the master, not only of your mind, but the immediate surroundings. Like, take care of your mind, take care of your body, take care of your space. If you have that in order, you are ahead of most men, right? Most men, like, they're disheveled, they're fat, they oftentimes smell bad, and then you go over to their place and it looks like a pack rat sort of thing. So don't do that, right? This all comes back to the point that nobody can look up to you if you can't look out for yourself, right? If you clearly evidence the fact that you cannot take care of yourself, right? You can't even take care of your own health, then how are other people supposed to respect you? They can't. It's impossible. I've talked about this before. So really focus on yourself. Accept maximum responsibility for what's going on around you, and understand that discipline, it's not a punishment. Going to the gym is not a punishment. It's an act of self-love. It's what gives you freedom, because without discipline, you only have chaos. You are ruled by chaos. So really accept the fact that you have to have order in your life. You are the order maker. Number 3, frame is power. The person with the strongest frame dictates reality. Now, what is frame? Frame is emotional stillness and certitude. It's not aggressive, but it's just the kind of acceptance of the way things are. This is how things are. You said so. So that's just what it is. That is frame. Now, it's the ability to stay calm whenever people test the frame, because not everybody's going to be happy with what you say. They're not going to necessarily accept it. and they will challenge it. And if you falter, if you start making compromises, or if you get flustered, or if you start explaining yourself or defending yourself, then you are losing frame, and thereby you're losing power. And if you have power, or if you don't have power, you don't have freedom. This is what this channel is about. Building power, building freedom. So, frame is power. It's that mental certitude. And whoever has the strongest frame in an interaction is the one leading the interaction. Whereas the person who's qualifying themselves, the person who's justifying the things that they believe in, they are on tilt, right? Everybody sees it except for them. So, don't explain yourself, don't apologize. Simply assert what you're going to assert with calm confidence. Number 4 is master morality. Now, most people live by the code of the slave, right? They have these kind of fake morals that they wear on their arm sleeves so they can feel like a good person, when in reality, all that is just resentment of people in power, right? It's like, oh, I wish I had what they had, but since I don't, I'm going to pretend like I'm this moral person. It is pure cope, it's pure sour grapes. Don't do that. You need to throw away this sort of pedestrian morality of approval and guilt and virtue signaling, because quite honestly, no one is impressed by that besides maybe the mid philosophy major girl who will make your life hell anyways. So, understand that these rules you've been taught throughout your whole life, oh, we're all created equal, you gotta be nice to everybody, fairness, yada, yada, yada. This is meant for peasants. This is not meant for the ruling class. Like, the rules do not apply to them. Do you know why? Because they make the rules. So, you really need to adopt that same mindset. You don't need to necessarily break the rules. You don't need to follow the rules either. But you need to be the person who starts making your own rules in life. Number 5 is polarity. Now, everything in life has a yin and a yang. Yin is kind of weakness, it's not even weakness, right? It's more emotional, it's more fluid, it's more soft. Whereas yang is the masculine energy. Now, you have some of both of these inside of you, and that's fine. But as a man, you need to embrace your yang strength. This means you need to do the things that I'm talking about. You need to be calm, confident. You need to have the master morality. At least if you want to attract a feminine woman. Like, if you want to attract the burly boss woman who's going to tell you what to do and give you these honey-do lists and make all these demands, yeah, sure. Be super feminine. Be in your feelings all the time. That's what you will get. But if you want a soft, feminine woman, then you have to be the leader. You need to accept the fact that that is your role. And you must embody the masculine polarity. Now again, this goes with everything. Like, if you are a leader at work, you need to act like a leader, not like a friend, not like a cohort. You are the person who is in charge. This doesn't mean you need to be completely domineering, but it does mean you need to have a certain degree of decorum. So, again, the polarity. You have people who follow, people who lead. Which do you want to be? I mean, it's kind of common sense when you think about it. But again, 2025, common sense kind of got threw out the window a decade ago. Number 6 is the law of embodiment. Now, confidence is not simply a mindset. It's not just looking yourself in the mirror and be like, I feel confident today, I am strong, all of this bullshit. Confidence really is a bodily function, right? It's the way you walk, it's the way you speak, it's the way you breathe, right? Most people are shallow breathers. Don't do that, right? Breathe deeply, talk slowly, walk in a calm, upright way. So really, it's good to have mindsets. And a lot of my writing is about those sort of mental hacks, understandings, beliefs that do help you. But at the end of the day, you need behaviors. And more than that, you need habits. So it's these micro habits, like I said, the way you speak, the way you make eye contact with people, the way you hold your body, these sorts of things that convey confidence not only to the outside world, but also to yourself, right? If you're constantly closed off body language like this, then you're not going to feel confident. That's just what it is. So practice these things. Practice posture. Practice speaking slowly. Practice moving slowly. Have a breath work practice. Like I might make a video just on breath work because I like it a lot. But that's number 6. Embody the confidence. Embody the state that you want to be in, and then you will be in that state. Don't try to just force yourself into having an emotion before there's any action to precede it. That's just not how it works. Number 7 is the principle of challenge. Now, you can really determine the character of a man by the sorts of challenges and problems that they face. Really, people who look towards comfort, who are always trying to take it easy, they generally end up in a really bad space because they've never built the sort of resilience or the sort of anti-fragility that is required when unfortunate things happen, right? So you need to practice this. You need to face struggles head on. We talked about this, like discipline is not a punishment, it's self-love. But it's also key to building up your capacity for dealing with things in life. So, resistance. I mean, think about just going to the gym, right? You don't go to the gym and look at the weight and be like, okay, I'm getting stronger by looking at it. No, you apply force to your muscle over and over again. And the more you do that and the more force, the bigger your muscles get. The same thing with your character. Whenever you face difficulties, whenever you face your own fears, your own inhibitions, they start to go away. Those inhibitions become lighter. The things you fear become less anxiety inducing, just like the weight that you started struggling with 9 months ago. Now it's much lighter to you. Similar concept. So face struggles. Don't be the person who lounges about constantly looking for comfort, right? Comfort is a deathbed. You need to internalize that mindset. And really, whenever you do fear something, recognize that that's a signal that you should probably do it. And you should viciously do it. You should aggressively face your fears. Number 8 is the law of emotional control. And this was one of my favorites. Because whenever you control somebody's emotions, you control them. And this is probably nowhere more evident than, this is kind of a weird thing, but in traffic, right? You always see these people who are like freaking out while they're driving. And I always thought it was funny. I mean, I used to be that person too, road rage. But then I realized, like, why am I letting this person who I don't even know, who doesn't know me and doesn't care about me, why am I letting that person ruin my moment? And then it kind of clicked for me. I'm like, yeah, if you just don't care, then that person has zero power over you. And then if they're the ones freaking out, blasting on their horn while you just think it's funny, you're like, I totally just fucked with that guy's day. Like, I'm in his head. I just think it's a passing humorous thing. I'm jamming out to the radio or whatever. So, men lose power whenever they emotionally react. And they lose it to the person who caused that emotional reaction. I want you to really remember that one. Because if somebody can control your emotions, they can control you. Think about the events over the past, 5, 6 years, the sort of emotions that came up among people, anxiety, fear, these sorts of things, and how easily it was to control entire populations based on these. So if you're the guy who just doesn't fear things, you're very difficult to control. Keep that in mind. And that's one of the reasons why I do this channel. It's like, for me, this is not just self-development. This is saving the West. Because the more men start to adopt these mindsets, the harder they are to control. And that's exactly what they don't want. So, there is a deeper agenda with me teaching you these things, quite honestly. So yeah, just keep in mind, like, the person who rules is the person who thinks strategically and who is not emotionally affected, who's not always on emotional tilt. Number 9 is having that mission first mindset. To get anywhere, you have to know where you're going, right? Nobody became an astronaut by accident. So, find a direction. And as a man, you need some sort of direction. Without direction, you will feel listless. You will feel depressed. Even if it's just sputtering around in your garage, tinkering around with things, at least have something that you're working on. Because clarity comes from purpose, and a mentally clouded mindset comes from a lack of direction. So without a mission, men tend to drift. But whenever they have clarity of intent, that's when they start to rally resources around them. That's whenever the universe starts to shine on them. Whenever you say, I want to do this thing, and you actually take steps to do it, it's not just vapid desire, but it's actual intent. And intent is, not just you want this thing, but you want to take the actions to get that thing. You're willing, not even a willingness to take actions to get that thing. That's when the universe starts to shine in your favor. So that is the mission first mindset. And it goes back to Stephen Covey, right? Start with why. Start with your purpose. Start with the goal in mind, and then vector everything towards that. And finally, number 10, you are not one person. This is probably the most important. So if you stayed this long, congratulations. This is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Because you are not one person. Like, inside of your head, there are multiple facets of your being contending with each other. And really what you are is the decider of who gets the microphone. Are you gonna pass the microphone to the little who says, just stay inside, it's cold today, you don't have to go to the gym? Or are you gonna pass the microphone to the guy who's like, well, I told myself I'm going to the gym, so I'm going to the gym? And what you need to understand is that you will strengthen or weaken these different aspects of yourself depending on who you give that microphone to. You need to really be mindful about which part of yourself you are platforming in your own head, right? Are you entertaining and feeding the negative aspects? I wouldn't even say negative aspects. They're not negative aspects, but they are aspects that are not serving your purpose. They're not as useful in the current moment as other aspects. Every aspect is there for a reason. It's there to protect you, and it's there to protect itself, really. But you need to be very conscious about giving attention to those aspects which, again, serve your purposes, that do help you in life. So again, the goal is not comfort and safety, but it's to transcend, right? It's a permanent elevation and strengthening of those best aspects of yourself. So I want to ask which of these you found most enlightening, which of these you think are most important, and which do you struggle with the most? And if you found this inspiring, if you found this useful, please do share it or leave a comment below. And if you want more high impact philosophy, you can visit you can get my free newsletter at No BS Philosophy at Substack. This is also part of a book that I'm currently working on. It should be out in a week or two, maybe a few weeks. And if you want to work on with me one-on-one in a mentorship program, I'm opening that up too. So I'll put a link in the description, and I will talk to you later.